Good afternoon, we are now live.
Good afternoon, all, for this webinar from the FTTH Council about ESG topics and the supply chain of the fiber sector indeed. So very welcome to everybody, of course, who is already joining, and maybe we wait some seconds. I see there are still joining people I can see, so we wait some seconds before we start with this webinar, but I will already do some of the official slides. In this case, we have to present, of course, some about the FTTH Council itself. Now, like you can see, we just celebrated our 20th anniversary last year, and we are now over more than 160 members who are joining the FTTH Council on different sides of these supply chain, and also that's one of the parts of this webinar, because we're talking with the operator in this case, and also with manufacturers of the supply chain we are all part of. Some other items about the webinars, but I think this one is also important for you. So this webinar is recorded, so if you're not able to join it completely the full time, for example, you can see it later back. But also, if you want to ask questions, you can do that in the question box. I will see them, and later on at the end of the webinar, we will have some time to ask the questions to the speakers, and they will answer your questions. So if you have questions, please do that in the question box, so we can see that, and from the FTTH Council, we can moderate the questions of you. So I think it's a good one to start with the short introduction of the speakers in this case. And you already have seen the key outcomes of this webinar. It was already part of the invitation in this case, but I think we have a nice mix of different topics in this webinar, because we are going down to the complete supply chain, starting with Eurofiber, in this case Norian Wash, who is the Group Director for Procurement and ESG at Eurofiber. And he is an operator of optical fiber systems in network networks. So that is from one side of the supply chain, and then we go later on in the presentation, we go back to another part of the supply chain. We're down in the supply chain, in this case with technical zone, and Sabrina Gacciani will talk about all the steps they are doing in their journey on sustainability in this case. At the end, I also will have some notes about the FTTH Eco Platform, a very great project we are doing, and also was joined in this case by Techniconsult. So Sabrina will also explain a little bit about that. But I think it's a good one to start with the first presentation, in this case about Norian. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Jeroen. And let me start with saying, obviously, that I'm very happy to be here today, and honored as well to be here. And also thanks to FTTH for organizing this. Let me, as we have, I think, around the upcoming 25 minutes to talk a little bit more about Eurofiber, let me deep dive into what I want to discuss today and explain. But before doing so, well, you actually already did a small introduction, Jeroen, so thank you for that. So my name is Norian Was. I'm being heading the procurement and ESG department now since 2014, and within Eurofiber, we're responsible for everything related to procurement for the group. And besides that, also ESG, so environment, social, and governance. And I have worked over 20 years in procurement-related roles, of which before Eurofiber KPN, which I think is known as Dutch incumbent telco operator, and before that for Louvre Hotel, something completely different, also in procurement, which is a hotel chain of over 1,700 hotels. So that's shortly about me. But let's dive into what Eurofiber is and a short introduction on Eurofiber. So if we could move to the next slide. So Eurofiber is, well, we are basically doing two things. We are firstly and foremost delivering connectivity in 4 countries, being the Netherlands, Germany, France, and Belgium. And in those countries, we own and operate over 75,000 kilometers of fiber infrastructure. where we deliver various services from dark fiber to lit fiber to different customer segments, being education, care, governance, but also wholesale operators, so other telco companies who use our network to actually sell their services. And besides that, we also have 11 data centers, which we have watched. Most of them are in the Netherlands, but we also have a data center operating in France. And with that network, we also connect, or 421 data centers are connected to that network, where obviously our customers have their data and their equipment and all their stuff, which they can use our network to offer their services again. Over more than 45,000 customers, only in this is about the Netherlands and Belgium, but to give a small view of the size of what we are doing, and we are expanding, and I think that's also pretty amazing, our network with around 60 kilometers a week. So we are a fast growing organization. And obviously we do that by organic growth, so by getting new customers in, but obviously also by acquisitions of companies. If you look at, for example, Germany and France, we did in the last years quite some acquisitions of companies to grow our network and activities over there. Now, if we move that towards procurement, which I'm working on a daily basis on, and also ESG, then we spend now around roughly 200 million euros annually to more than 1,600 suppliers being creditors, so companies who send us a purchase invoice. And these companies are mainly contractors who build and maintain and operate our network, but can also be material suppliers, equipment suppliers, and all sorts in between. So that is basically where we spend most of our money on. Making the bridge to ESG, which is the other part of what we do. So we have set at Eurofiber very clear goals on environment, social, and governance. And if you look at it, if you look at environment, then that is mostly and foremost also aimed at emissions and lowering emissions. So we have a target at Eurofiber becoming net zero by 2040, which always comes with a base year. In our case, the base year is 2021. So we compare that to that starting year. And if you look at emissions, you look at scope 1, scope 2, scope 3 emissions being the ones 1 and 2 where you have direct impact on. So for example, energy or movements, electrical car fleets, those kind of things. And scope 3, which is our supply chain, and which is about what we purchase, goods and services, or the investments we make. To give you a small idea of size, so 79% of all our emissions are in those scope 3 emissions. So they are in the supply chain. And that is why at Eurofiber, it's also very logical to combine ESG and procurement, because the biggest impact we can and should make is in that area. If you look at the scope 1, 2 things, it's all about buying renewable energy, which is one of our goals, so 100% renewable energy for everything what we buy ourselves. It is about electrical car fleet, so we have since I think 2022 the policy of only adding electrical cars to our fleet, building our fossil fueled cars. Those type of things are related to that. What I didn't mention, but what is the case, all of this is in line with the Science-Based Target Initiative, so Eurofiber, and also the net zero target. So we are aligned with that initiative, and our goals and our plans are approved, and we are committed to that. So that is more about the steering of it. If you look at the social part, then that is much more about making and ensuring that we become a workplace which is inspiring for the people who work at Eurofiber. And that also includes directly or indirectly, for example, our contractors or people who work for us in the field on a daily basis. It is about inclusiveness, it is about diversity, inclusive, and it's about those type of topics. So here you have to think about targets on, for example, women in management positions. We want to, by the end of this year, have 30% of female managers in our company. We have voluntary programs in place, so people have hours available where they can actually impact societally close by via voluntary hours. We have a supplier code of conduct, which is much more aimed at suppliers, right? And that is about making sure we have no child labor, making sure we are legally doing the things which need to be done. We have things like banned chemicals, which are also part of those type of agreements, so different things over there. And we have a lot of partnerships in this area as well. So an example of a partnership is with Right Brains, where we also try to see how we can get more female within the company, how we can support that, how we can collaborations on how we can get young female into technology roles. Those kind of things is also part of the social area. Governance is perhaps where it all comes together in the more, well, I'm not sure if it's the boring part, but it's a lot more about reporting, and it's a lot more about showing what we are doing. But also, I think at Eurofiber, very important, having that verified by third parties, individual of independent third parties. So we have our targets, we steer on it, we have a program, but we want the proof of what we do in external verification. So obviously, as we know, that is a lot about ISO certifications, which are in the environmental area or in security or in those type, which obviously is linked to our services and important. But another example is, for example, our own annual ESG report, which we also every year publish, but also verified by a third party who really looks at, okay, is what we say, is that actually the case, and is that proven? So that for us is very important. This also leads to results in the forms of awards. So for example, Eurofiber is being awarded with a platinum medal in the EcoVadis platform, where we in that rating system belong to the 1% of companies who are in the top actually of this topic. So that's and health and safety, those kind of things are also in here. So that's about the governance part. How does that reflect into procurement? So if we move to the next slide, then so sustainable procurement, so much more. Okay, so I think and I believe that as also talked about these emissions, right? 79% of the emissions is in our scope 3. So I think it's very the help, support, and reaching our goals really depends also on our suppliers, and they play a pivotal role in that to make that work. So what we have set up a couple of years ago is a kind of framework on how we want to do that and what is sustainable procurement at Eurofiber. Well, first of all, we take it very seriously. I think that at least I hope to have shown as well in the previous slide and what I've explained, but we have put ESG as a strategical pillar within the company. It is in leadership level. It is being steered on. We have clear targets and that. So that's where everything starts. Then secondly, we have integrated all of these targets and goals into sustainable procurement, and we use the ISO 2400 norm for that. Now, that is not a certifiable norm, but it is a norm which we use as setting the framework and integrating the way how we work. To show a little bit more, make that a little bit more concrete, I would like to move to the next slide. Because in there, so procurement is basically high level, all about sourcing, specifying, selecting, and contracting suppliers who do the work which is needed to be done so that we can deliver our end product and serve our customers. And secondly, on the other side of the angle, it's about getting the stuff delivered and monitoring the performance and the quality of what we do. Now, in all these steps, this is how we do it. You cannot read it, which is, I think, fine, because it's much more about the principles, right? So in all these steps, we've integrated sustainability. So, for example, in the requirements part, which is specified, we have set different specifications requirements on sustainability. So that can be things like energy efficiency, that can be about products which we don't want to be in the end product, that can be about inclusion, diversity, social return, all those different type of requirements, and it really much depends as well on what you buy. So it's not one size fits all per category or product, and we are also organized in different categories. There's different requirements, but also the use of materials, you name it, all is in there. That reflects and is translated to contracts. So once we have selected suppliers, we want to put that on paper. Something we mostly know is something like a supplier code of conduct, right? Where you have all kinds. So that is, but it also reflects in other contractual agreements like banned chemicals, which you really put on paper. This is not in the products, or all different type of contractual agreements. The last thing I want to mention on this is where it also is important is in the monitoring of suppliers. So once they are in and you work with them, you also, for especially the key suppliers, want to see how they perform. And that means that in the monitoring phase and in the performance reviews of suppliers, we also have ESG as a big part of that. So we look as well and we discuss as well, how are you doing? And I will tell a little bit later on how we are doing that. Now, if we move on to the next step in the process, which is actually about this rating and auditing of our supplier, is that so you can put everything on paper, but if you do not monitor it in practice, then that's also it's only paper, right? So the way how we do it is actually presented on the next slide, and is we use a couple of things for that. So first of all, we have implemented EcoVadis. So as I said, we are ourselves rated by EcoVadis, but we also rate our key main suppliers through this system. What we've done in there is that so we invite them to share their rating with us, and based upon that, we have discussions with the suppliers. So it's very much on having dialogue together and seeing how we can improve things. I think we have now over 50 suppliers who are rated through the EcoVadis system. And the second thing is that we integrate this rating into the performance review. So we have made a methodology at Eurofiber where we annually with suppliers discuss and evaluate the performance. That is actually a cycle in which we ask internally to the people who work with suppliers what they think about our suppliers, but vice versa. Also, we ask our suppliers how they see the collaboration with us, and we bring that together in a conversation which we have on how the performance is going. And a big part of that conversation is also about sustainability, and we use EcoVadis as this gives you insights in where a company, what it has in place and what it does not have in place. We use this actually to have those discussions, and by that stimulate continuous improvement amongst each other and follow up. We've started with this a couple of years ago. I think we are now at the stage that we know which suppliers we want to run through this system, and the next step is as well really to steer on action plans on to move forward, and even perhaps in the future later also on making it part of the requirements. For example, stating that a certain number of a certain rating is expected within a certain category for a certain supplier. So that's how we also continuously grow in using that platform. Another item we look at and do is as well, so EcoVadis is not covering everything. There's also parts which it's not covering, and now we are setting up social audits for that as well. So that's much more on those things I mentioned about Is the environment that the supplier is correct when it comes to legislations? Are they allowed certain stuff to unify those kind of things? Do they have the right papers if they work for us? These kind of items are in there. And that is something which we actually need to go to the supplier and go to the field and really see how it works. So that is what we call social audits. So an assessment on place, so to say. And then the last part in this trajectory is, grievance procedures. So we have a formal way where our suppliers can reach out to us and give a, if they see something wrong in the supply chain, they can inform us about it and do a file for a real complaint, which is not handled obviously by my team, but by a separate team who is objective in this matter, and also deals with customer complaints and all type of complaints. So that's a separate track. That about rating our suppliers being part of the sustainable procurement cycle. Now, the last three steps, I will kind of take them together because that is all much more about communication, dialogue together. We really strongly believe in moving forward by a dialogue. What I mean with this is that it took Eurofiber ourselves also time to get our ambitions in place, to think about how we want to do it, what we need to do, and everything related to it. And we believe that we need our suppliers in there to get there and reach these targets, and that we can only do that together and in dialogue, and also giving everybody the room and time to also go through the same journey, I would say, as we went through. And we work with a lot of different type of companies. So we work with huge international players who many cases perhaps are even far more farther than us in this whole journey. But we also work with local companies which have a different size, have a different maturity on this topic, and also need and most probably also want to move in the direction. So that's why we believe that based on the type of company, we have to, in joint collaboration, move towards our goals. And I think for us, the most important thing is in these dialogues to find out if a company is willing to jointly work towards these goals or not. If they are willing, then we are there to help and together create this part. If not, then it's a little, then there is then that is for us really a reason to think about the collaboration and whether that fits, because we want to really reach our goals. That dialogue is not only with suppliers, it's also internal with colleagues, with what we refer to a lot of times as the business. And it even goes further. It also involves the entire value chain. And with that, we mean that we also want to, besides the traditional relationship, for example, from us talking to the sales organization, negotiating, making deals, contracts, all these kind of things, but we also, with the key suppliers, want to enlarge our collaboration and speak with the persons who are doing procurement, for example, in those organizations. Or, as we know, relationships go further than only tier one, which they are a lot of times talking about, but there's also suppliers on suppliers, contractors work with subcontractors. So we really see this as we have to get that into the complete value chain, supply chain, or how you call it. So that is about this part. If we go to the next slide, then actually I think I already talked a little bit about this, but this is more a timeline. So in 2022, we actually started with this whole, what I just said, dialogue, which is basically a supplier engagement program, which we started up. And we started up that by introducing and by sharing our ambitions and targets with our suppliers. That was also the first time that we organized a supplier event, which was really fully on the topic of ESG, on the the introduction of our targets and ambitions, and on how are we getting there jointly. And that actually came along with the implementation of something which we call the Supplier Manifesto. And that is actually a document in which we write down the target setting we have, the ambition we have, and which is, well, kind of a document to support the dialogue. So in there we also write down real tangible actions, how we are getting there, and we do that together. So and I will give you some examples later of where you can think about and what those kind of things are we are working on. So some concrete actions. But that's what we said in that supplier manifesto. So it's actually a working document about the commitments we give to each other, about the actions and initiatives we are going to take, and to make it demonstrable what the contribution of the supplier is. And well, what I said earlier as well is, so it is not without obligation. It does mean that if we see that we do not move, or that we are not able to have that dialogue correctly yet, well, then eventually it makes us choose for other suppliers or other relationship, because we do want to make it. But until so far, I have to be very honest as well, with all the suppliers which we started up this process, we have very positive discussions, and they are willing to help and work with us together. So that's good. What we also did is that supplier event, which started off over there, we kept it. So it is actually an annual event which comes back every year, which is very much focused on inspiring the companies we work on with what we could achieve. It's about engaging them to be part of this and showcasing best practices, or showcasing ideas, and to learn from each other. So that's at the end of this year, we will again have our event, and that is really much in these lines. By the way, this year it will be extra festive, because we are existing 25 years. I think, Jeroen, you said FTTH is existing 20 years. We as Eurofiber exist 25 years. So it's a celebrative year for us as well. So that's about this part. If we continue, yeah, then okay. So to make it a little bit more concrete, what we are talking about. So as I said, a lot of the actions and a lot of the things we are doing are in the area of environment, meaning that we talk about the emission reductions. We have clear targets on net zero. We have also a target actually on circularity. So we in 2030 want to make sure that everything we put in our network is actually circular from that time on. That means that everything which obviously is currently within the network, we will not just take it out and throw it away and replace it. That would not be very sustainable. But we are working together with companies to create circularity within the products we use. So a lot of the concrete initiatives which we're doing are around that. So we are talking with our cable supplier. We have actually worked on using a duct or cables now, which is used from recycled materials. We are working with quite some companies on something which is called EPDs, environmental product declaration. So we are looking at the life cycle and the life cycle analysis of products we use to really understand what is in that, how does it work, how is it produced, and what are the emissions linked to it. I think one of the challenges you have within the whole emission area is obviously the data, right? So when you look at emission reductions, you first need to understand what is actually my emissions. We at Eurofiber started by doing that based on spend. So that means that we use our spend with a certain emission factor, spend-based approach, and then we know the emissions. But a lot of the projects we concretely do with our suppliers are about moving from that spend-based approach to approach where we really talk about the emissions which are linked to Eurofiber. So that can be either understanding their scope 1, 2 emissions because they are R3, for example, with our contractors, or understanding the EPD life cycles, because then we know exactly what is the footprint of our products. And then we can also use these analysis and EPDs for selecting in the future most emission-free products. Other examples are, well, here you see some pictures of, for example, I talked about electrification of our car fleet, but the same we are talking and working on with our contractors. How can we electrify, for example, the digging process or their car fleet, or and obviously some things work and something also need to be piloted and do not work yet because of battery life or all kind of other things. So there's a lot of learning and piloting in those areas as well to get to new ideas. And then we also do refurbishment of equipment. So for example, we have CPs or in the field routers, and we take them back. We try to reuse them where possible if we can still repair them and send them back again. So this is, I think, what a lot of companies in our field do, but that's also what we do. Looking at waste streams, all those kind of things. Well, these are the examples which I give. Looking at the time, I think I'm also having this as my last slide. Being within time. So basically what I wanted to tell you is a little bit, hopefully that succeeded, tell you a little bit about Eurofiber, about ESG within Eurofiber, and about the pivotal role suppliers play within this to get our targets and ambitions done. And this is what excites me actually every day, to work on this and get this done, which is a challenging task. Thank you.
Thank you, Norian, for your explanation about the ESG goals, but also how you integrate that in the supply chain, of course, in your sustainable procurement approach you're doing. So this was, from out the view of an operator, you can say at the one end of the supply chain, and now we're going to change to further deeper in the supply chain to a manufacturer. And in this case, of course, it's a lot about large companies always. They're doing all kinds of great things, like also Norian told. But they're also but they're also small companies who are most of the time more innovative maybe than larger companies and are able to make new investment or new innovations at a faster way to the market. So I think that is the good one. Sabrina now will go to learn us how SME in this case can develop and innovate in the space of sustainability in this case, and how they operate with their clients in this case and customers on sustainability. So Sabrina, go ahead. I will change the slide deck.
Thank you. Thank you, Jeroen. Okay, so I'll introduce myself very briefly. I don't have much time, so we'll go a bit quickly over the slides. So my name is Sabrina Graziani. I'm a shareholder and director of Techniconsult. We are a small company, a European small company located in northern Italy. We can switch to the next slide already. Thank you. So we are specialized, as said, it's a family-owned company, a small one. We're specialized in the production of pultruded GFRP rods for the cable industry, fiber optic cable industry. And we, being a European company, we operate in Europe, so we are a local company, I would say, with strong relationship with European customers and European suppliers. We can switch. Okay, so just briefly, our expertise covers every stage of the production. We have complete control of the technology, from the resin formulation to the production process. So we are able to redesign our production lines and of course our products. We have more than 200 articles in place that we can switch very quickly from one to another, because we have a fast process. We are very quick. We are very flexible. We are able to change the planning even daily, on a daily basis for our customers. So we can switch. Yeah. So even though we are a small company, as said, sorry, I forgot to mention that we have a capacity of 500 to 1 million kilometers of rod per year, depending on a mix of the sizes requested by our customers. So although we are a small company, we have the ISO certification, 9000 of course, 14,000 and 45,000. Okay, they speak for themselves. We have also implemented in our company also the SA 8000, which maybe you're not so familiar with, but anyways, a social accountability management system. And we joined the UN Global Compact since I think it was yes, in the 17 before COVID for sure. So also we do have we implemented in our organization also the 231, which is an Italian law that makes the organization responsible, legally responsible for certain crimes, such as, for example, environmental crimes or bribery, corruption. And so everything, of course, it's somehow part of our ESG journey, I have to say, which started a few years ago and continues. So we can switch to the next one. Yes, what we do, okay, those are our strategies and actions at the moment. I will spend a few words after with the other slides on waste reduction, which is a project that we invested a lot in. We have a real return service. It's been in place for several years now. That means that we collect back, for example, our reels, because our product is winded on reels like cables. Okay, so we collect the reels back, we clean them, and we are able to reuse them, put them back into the system. I think we collect back about 80% of our reels. So that's a service very appreciated by our customers, and it's also sustainable. We have developed several products introducing bio-based resins or mass balance raw materials. We are also refurbishing lots of our equipment in order to reduce CO2 emissions. So we are in our scope 1, 2. We purchase already 100% electricity from fossil-free energy sources. Wherever we can, we promote intermodal transport. We're very flexible and quick with our shipments, so we can compensate sometimes a little more timing into the intermodal transport, and clients seem to appreciate that because it lowers, of course, the emissions. Wherever can we minimize the use of resources, like we are able already to reuse some of the water that's used to cool our system. So we try to maximize wherever possible our efficiency in production. So that's we're doing lots of steps in that sector. Okay, we can go to the next. Okay, this I would like to spend a little bit more time on this because it's a big project actually developed by one of our main supplier, which is Owens Corning's fiberglass. And we are part of it because we supply to Owens Corning our virgin waste, glass virgin waste, and that comes from our production. They are able to reintegrate the waste into their production and offer a new product which they call Sustainaloop, and which is produced with virgin material from and circular glass fiber content through a mass balance approach. So in a few months' time, I think we will be able to offer to our customers that are willing to accept it this new product, Sustainaloop. I mean, the rod produced with recycled glass. And another very interesting project that they are developing is in the future. I mean, they're already working on it, but it's at a pilot state. Is that they will be able to collect also our finished goods. That means fiberglass rod, and through a chemical process, pyrolysis probably, they will be able to put it, divide resins from glass and put it back into their production. And that's very significant, I think, because it's interesting for our customers also, because we will be able to get back also the waste from our customers. That means that it's a post-consumer recycling process, which I think it's very important, very interesting. And on our side, we will be able to offer to our customer a complete recycled product. So hopefully there's, in a few months' time, for sure, we will be able to offer the Sustainaloop, and in the future, probably collect back also the post-consumer product. Okay, so we can switch to the next one. Okay, being a small company and not a listed one, we are not, it's not compulsory for us to produce a corporate sustainability reporting. Nonetheless, we did a gap analysis last year, and we decided after that to take, a step-by-step approach into that direction. So we will see how it goes. In the meantime, we are part of the EUCIA, which is the European Composite Association. They already developed an interesting tool which is called Eco Impact Calculator that calculates the environmental impact from cradle to gate of the product, so the LCA of the product, and that's already been implemented. Now we're playing a little bit with the tool and trying to understand how to integrate it into the GHG assessment that we're doing with Tuvalu, which I will explain afterwards. Another big project that it's been already approved is the solar power potential solar power on our rooftop. We have 1 megawatts of potential, which covers our production completely and enables us to give back to the community the extra capacity. So we will see where that goes. Okay, so we can switch to the next one. Okay, and finally, very important, this year, we decided to implement into our organization the SCFP calculator, which has been promoted by the FTTH Council, and which through a platform offered by Tuvalu, a software offered by Tuvalu, and I will explain something more about it in the next slides. We can switch. Okay, so what are the customers' expectations? I think Norian explained very well before what their expectations are, towards the suppliers, and I think that clearly they are not just regulatory requirements; they become central to business operations. The ESG criteria, of course. I think that, as I said before, it's not compulsory for us, but being a supply chain in the value chain, we have to comply, we have to be aligned. So, I know that most of the customers seek out suppliers which align with their own ESG commitments, and of course we have to do that, absolutely. And so it was. Those are clear. I have to say, not every customer is asking us that for the moment, but the most sensitive one do. So, and we really value that, because over the years we built very strong relationships with, suppliers and customers, and that's I think that helps us to stay on the market, to be competitive, and to know exactly what the market is requiring. So we can switch to the next one. So being clear what the expectations from our customers are, it was important for us to we know what we've done up to now and what we're doing and what our projects are, but it was important to have transparent targets and shared objective criteria, of course. And the idea of adopting a methodology that was shared, a common one, seemed to be a good idea in order to ensure consistency and accountability. That's why we decided to be part of the Eco Platform. Actually, we learned about the Eco Platform because one of our main customers, showed us which was a pioneer, I think, into the project, explained to us what it was and invited us to participate, and that's what we did, in fact. And so it was part of the dialogue that Norian was mentioning before. It's very important. I really agree what he said, because it's important to have always an open channel with our customers and see where they are going in order for us to follow. Sometimes to be innovative, sometimes to follow. It depends. But anyway, so I thought that we thought that the FTTH platform was a good way of sharing, and we can switch to the next one, because I don't have much time and I want to explain what we're doing. So we decided to, as I said, to participate, and we joined the Tuvalu Academy in order to have the GHE assessment. So we decided to purchase also the software and to have the individual support. So as far as the academy goes, which is already concluded, we build up a focus group inside our company, involving people from administration, purchasing, warehouse, planning, pretty much everybody, I have to say. And it was good because we worked on, software demo. We had practical cases. Those were very interesting, I have to say. And we built a flow mapping of our organization. So that's for the start. And in the meantime, while we were participating into the academy, we had the individual support. We had already several meetings where we had, project framing, of course, and they're helping us building scope 1 to 3, being scope 3 the most difficult one, as everyone knows, especially for a small company like ourselves. And they provided a personalized worksheet so that we could have a tailor-made indicators. We ourselves worked on our data collections. It took a few days work involving really everybody, every sector, but we pretty much had all the data in our ERP system, so it was not a huge thing to do, but it took several days, I have to say. And now we are finalizing this part. That means that we already submitting all our data, and Tuvalu is working on the personalization of the software for us, so that we haven't seen it yet, but we are eager to start playing with it. I think it will take a few weeks to have it back. So we will see. And after that, we will be able to share our results on the Eco Platform, so that we can share with all the other players the ESG best practices, and of course also benchmarking our carbon footprint in relation to our sector, to the fiber optic sector. So I think we are doing big steps into this direction, into measurement, because I know we've done a lot, but we have never done a measurement up to now. So this is our first big step into that direction, and we will see. And I think it's good to have this platform, and I really hope that more and more players will join in, so that we can have the shared best practice, and have also have the same, to stay on the same page, because otherwise having different platform is not easy to compare, and we need that, also to be competitive, to be on this market, which we know it's not an easy one. Absolutely, very challenging. So that's about it. I think I went already over my my time. Thank you very much for your attention. Thank you for inviting us again.
Thank you very much, Sabrina, for your inspiring way you talked about innovations you are doing in the supply chain. This is always your customer about the sustainable loop product. So we're very curious if it's on the market, and then it's very interesting, I think, in the way of sustainability, reduction of carbon footprint, but also force and circularity, which is also an important part of the sustainability journey we are on as a sector, but the whole world, of course. So thank you very much for all your information. And you did already a lot of my presentation. I knew about that because it is the best way to have an introduction by somebody who already joined the FTTH Eco Platform. So I will have some slides, maybe short after the speakers already introduced themselves. A short word about me. I am normally, in my normal life, I am the manager ESG at Fibre Group, a colleague of Norian in this case. And so some of the ESG goals and ambitions are very familiar for me and my normal way of working today. But besides that, I'm also now for the third year, I'm the chair of the Sustainability Committee of the FTTH Council Europe. And this is what we did in the Sustainability Committee. So the last 2 years, we worked hard on developing the FTTH Eco Platform. And we launched it now by the end of 2024. And now we already have more than 30 members who are joining the Eco Platform. The data they provide to us about the carbon footprint at organizational level, but also information about carbon footprints or outcomes of life cycle assessment, or maybe about environmental product declaration. So that's very important to get as many as members of the FTTH Council, but there's also a possibility to join the FTTH Eco Platform if you're not a member of the council. That is also a possibility. Just on some items about the approach we're doing and why we do this. Now, I think the best way, it's already explained by Sabrina. It's very important we have one way of communicating, one way of calculating the data in this case. We are all part of the same supply chain. So that means that the scope 1 and 2 of some company is the scope 3 of another company in the supply chain. So it's important you use the same rules, the way of calculating, the same functional units, for example. And at the end, our end goal, you can say that, is to make a carbon footprint of the whole European sector of the FTTH sector in this case. That is good to have that. Then we can show also the progress, and like monitoring is an important thing in the sustainable procurement program. And Norian already told, but it's also important to show how we are decreasing, in this case, the carbon footprint of a sector. That is, of course, important to show to your customers, to your suppliers in the supply chain, but as an FTTH Council itself, for us, it's also important on all kinds of discussions we have with the policymakers of the European Commission, because we want to have, of course, we want to show that the optical fiber sector is ahead in the sustainability journey all the other industries are doing in Europe in this case. So that's are the reasons we developed the FTTH Eco Platform. It's now live, it's running, and it has some parts of it. It means that we have platforms on LinkedIn, for example, to discuss about our topics. You can ask us. We have a team with several specialists, so you can ask on the LinkedIn site. You can ask questions about sustainability, calculating your carbon footprint. Already mentioned, Tuvalu is one of our partners in this case, so they have the software. It's not mandatory if you're joining the Eco Platform to buy a license of the software, but it's an option you have if you want to automate your carbon footprint calculations. You can buy a license at Tuvalu, but it's not mandatory. What's mandatory is the calculation of all the carbon footprints of products inside the supply chain and at organizational level, because then we can do two things in this case. We have the sector database, so that means that we can see, all right, what is the carbon emission of fiber to the home path, for example, or activated, or if you look at different PON technologies, what is the difference in carbon footprint in this case? And we can calculate, like I mentioned, more on a European approach level. We can calculate the carbon footprint of the sector. The second part is also the sector observatory. So we can also do that, and like I said, for several parts of the supply chain. So this is why we collect all the data on organization level and as most as possible also on product level, because then we can say, right, we have sold, for example, a company has sold 60,000 CPs of this type, and if we know the carbon footprint of that, then we know that's part of the total supply chain carbon footprint in this case. You can join by the website of the FTTH Council. You can find a separate part about the FTTH Eco Platform if you want to see more information, also the fees in this case. But I think it's also important to show in this case what we are in that, and we'll do it for the time on the last slide. In this case, the Academy. It was mentioned by Sabrina. An option we provide to members who are joining the FTTH Eco Platform is to join for a lower fee, in this case, the Academy. So if you are not mature in calculating your carbon footprint, and probably scope 1 and 2 is possible with some bills of your energy company, for example, but scope 3 is really the important and difficult thing to calculate. So then you can join the Academy, and then in a total group of 10 companies, you will learn from our partner Tuvalu about how can you calculate it, what kind of data do you need to investigate, and what kind of calculation methodologies are there, and what are the calculation factors, for example, you can use. So that is really to learn if you want to, at the first time, for example, or you want to learn better how to calculate your carbon footprint. I think that's a very important one to helpful. It's helpful, I think, if you want to start with your first calculation of carbon footprint. So like I mentioned, go to the website and of the FTTH Council, look for the separate part of the FTTH Eco Platform, and then you can find all kind of information, and you can also find an email address. You can send your questions to that, and it will be answered by somebody of the Eco Platform team, like Sophia, who's also joining this webinar, of course. She can answer your questions. I see we have some minutes left, not that many. If you want to have some questions, I can't see at this moment any questions in the question box. So, or I'm not doing my first job as an organizer very well, or nobody had questions until now. If you have later questions, probably you can also send them to the email address I mentioned of the Eco Platform. Then we can answer that afterwards. Yeah, in this case, I still don't see any questions. Then I have some questions. One question for both of you. Sabrina, I want to ask you. You already explained a little bit, but how can you describe the impact of the first time calculating your carbon footprint? How does that help your company in this case?
Yes, okay. So I want to add another thing I have to say the software, from what we saw from the Academy, it's really intuitive, and easy to use, hopefully. So I think it's a good software also for, as said, we're a small company. We do not have any ESG expert inside, and we have to involve a lot of people of our organization. So to answer your question, the impact is it's pretty considerable, I have to say, in terms of people involved, and of course it has a cost. It's an investment for sure. It's an investment in which we believe in, but it's certainly costly, and it has an impact in our organization. But we were happy to see how the Tuvalu software worked, because it seemed pretty intuitive and easy to be handled also for a small company like ourselves. So big impact, and on the same time, I think it's a good tool for us, for our dimension also, not only for big companies. Okay.
Great. Thank you very much. Then
So
a short question, hopefully a short answer for Norian, because we have 1.5 minutes. What do you see as the biggest challenge at this moment in sustainability for the optical fiber sector?
Now, I think that the biggest challenge is, and we talked kind of about it as well, is about data collection, is about data quality. So there is, and especially because what Sabrina told obviously also counts for us in collecting all this data. We have different business units, different countries, different. Do mergers and acquisitions on a quite big basis. So that means that every time when we do an acquisition, we need to also get all the data from the acquired company to actually recalculate our complete scope 1, 2, 3 emissions. So yeah, in short, the biggest challenge is really getting all this data in, having clear definitions of the data, right? Because you can ask everything to everybody, but you need to make sure that the definition everywhere is the same and that you really have compared the same data. I think that in the given time of answering this question, Jeroen, is by far our biggest challenge at the moment.
Yes. Thank you very much, Nori. And then I want to thank you and of course Sabrina for joining, also all the people. And then you can you will also receive all the slide deck. So thank you very much for joining this webinar, and hopefully see you later. Thank you very much.
thank you. Bye.